Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be doing a little reflection on the market that I did recently. So for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram or anything like that, I did the Bucks County show, and it's basically a farmers market that is based in Buckinghamshire. It is the largest one that I know about in Buckinghamshire, and I also didn't realise how big it was until literally a week before I was doing it. I asked them how many people were attending, and they told me that there was up to 25k that attend every year, so I was a little bit shocked. So I learned a lot from this market, a huge amount. It is the most successful market that I've ever done, and it also kind of opened my mind to farmers markets opposed to like town markets because of the marketing possibilities and also the amount that you make at them. So we're going to just be doing a reflection, tips, basically all the stuff that I've learned since I did my last one. I have done various videos on markets, so I'll put a little ticket up here just so that you can go and have a look at my other ones. I've done ones on tips for like preparing for a market, so like things that you need to remember to take, because before I did that video I was so unprepared, and also just little tips about like preparation in terms of like how much to bake, stuff like that. But we're going to be going over that in this video anyway, because like I say, I learned a lot and I actually did a lot of things differently for this. Some things I would not do again, but we'll get into that. I'll give you a little rundown of how the day went, as well as all of the little topics that I've got. So I have a full page of information here because, as you guys probably know, I love to plan a video. So we're gonna get right into it. I'm sorry that I have been away for a while. As usual, I'm just very busy. There will be an update video coming because I feel like things have changed a little bit in terms of the business side and my YouTube. So I'll give you a little update on that in another video, but basically things are going to run a little bit differently, and hopefully you guys stick around for it, because I feel like a lot has changed over the past 2 years, and a lot has changed for my channel and my business and personal life and all of that. So I think things are gonna be a little bit different. But yeah, I will get into that in another video. So just give you a rundown of the day before we actually get into the separate topics. So we've got baking, what you need, so like stuff that you need to take, marketing, and on the day, so like tips for on the day. So basically I found out about the market just because it's one that is plastered everywhere in my local town, and people come from all over. People came, some of the actual stall holders were from like Leicester, Nottingham, Birmingham, which from me is like a good few hours, so it's quite a big market. And I found out about it just from like signposts around my town, like I said, but I booked in August, and it wasn't until the 1st September, so I thought that was quite late. They said that usually people book in a lot earlier, but I think they had one person doing brownies, so they said that I was allowed to sell cakes. So I did cookies, cookie pies and brownies. I didn't actually think the brownie person turned up in the end, because I did try and look for them, so that was lucky. And there was also like someone selling sugar cookies, but usually they try and keep it to one type of stall. They had quite a few different cheese makers, but apparently they were slightly different, so it meant that they could have multiple, but like I say, usually they keep it to one. So it was a very early morning. I got there at 7 and it started at 8. People didn't actually come round until I'd say about 8:30, and then I'd say as soon as it got to like 9 AM it was busy, like all day. I literally, there was one point where I had to go to the toilet and I had to run to the toilet, and then there was a queue of about 50 people, and I was like, I'm really sorry, I'm a stall holder, please can I like go in quickly and have a wee? And some people didn't let me, so I had to then wait in the queue, and I probably wasted about 10 minutes. So one thing that I would say is they need maybe staff toilets, because like if you're on a stall on your own, at that point it was my mum there. I would definitely say for this type of show, if anyone is in Buckinghamshire and they're considering doing it, make sure you take multiple people, because this was before my sister got there, and it was a massive pain actually leaving the stall, because my mum isn't aware of everything that goes on with the business, so I couldn't leave her there for very long. But that was the only downside, but apart from that it was amazing. It was busy all day, absolutely rammed. I'm not sure how many people they got in the end. I kind of want to ask them, but it was rammed, like so busy. So it went until 6 p.m, but I only stayed there until I think it was about 4:30. You weren't allowed to bring your car in, but you could take your stuff away. So what we did is we just packed up and then took everything to the car where we parked, and then just packed up that way. So as long as you don't bring your car into the actual like market space, because obviously there's people walking around, then it's fine. So yeah, it was pretty like smooth running, didn't have any issues getting out of the market, and we sold out apart from 10 items, so I thought that was really good. We took, I think it was 400, so to have 10 items left is not bad at all. I actually wanted to eat some, so I kind of kept them for myself. But yeah, so that's pretty much how it runs. I don't really think there's much else in it, but you pretty much go there, and from 6 till 8 you could set up. I didn't have much to set up, so that's why I went for 7. I was running around like a headless chicken, literally running through the market, because I had to park my car so far away that I was running to and from the car to get all my stuff out. It was a massive pain. But yeah, just set up and then literally just start. So I think that's pretty much it on the setup side. So oh, actually something to mention which didn't actually come into effect, but they told me that I had to confirm before I actually signed up to sell there and everything that I wasn't selling anything for consumption on site. I agreed to this because obviously, as far as I'm aware, I'm going to put stuff in a bag or a box and I'm not telling them to eat it there. However, on the day people were eating it in front of me, people were walking off eating it, and I can't manage that. And I said that to them. I said, I'm not a security guard, like I'm not going to run after people and say you're not allowed to eat in here. And it was basically because they had their own like government food stands, so they have their own like cafeteria, that kind of thing. So you do probably want to check that with any farmers markets, because they were a little bit funny about it. But then on the day, like I said, they didn't actually implement it because they knew that I wasn't going to run around and chase after people. It's not really my problem if they eat on site. I'm telling them to put it in a box and take it home, so if they don't, that's not my problem. But yeah, so that is something to check, because they did say that on the phone. They were like, make sure people aren't eating it there, and I just said okay, and just got on with it. So things to think about with baking. So like I said, I did ask about attendees. Every single market that I go to, I ask them how many people they expect to be there. So if there's somewhere that sells tickets, always ask, because they might say to you, we've currently sold 500 tickets, but we expect to sell this much, and that's how many we sell on a yearly basis, because they'll have averages, because they'll need to know how much money they're going to make. So check that, because then that gives you a rough aim of how many people. Obviously they said that they get between 20 and 25,000 people, and I made 400 items because I physically couldn't make any more. But I do think that I could have taken more and still sold out. Like cookie pies, I didn't take as many. I think I took 8 cookie pies. They sold out by like 1 p.m. and I was there till like 4:30. So that was between 9 and 1. So I definitely could have taken even more cookie pies. So that's definitely something that I'll log down for the future. This is also another thing. Make sure that you are fully aware of your most popular products, your popular flavours, because again, even if it's by postal, so like I know what flavours are most popular by postal, so then I jig that for markets. So I'm like, right, these are the most chosen flavours, so I'll do more of those. Anything that is a bit more out there, then maybe do less of those. So I knew that things like, I don't know, like jammy dodger, stuff like that, it's more of an acquired taste because it's more savoury, whereas like chocolate orange, Kinder Bueno, Biscoff, they're fan favourites, so I knew that I could take plenty of those and not have any issues selling them. Biscoff sold out straight away in everything, in brownies, cookies. That went so quickly, like literally within 2 hours. And I kept saying to people, I'm really sorry, I've got no more Biscoff left. Same with Kinder, that was a very popular flavour, and chocolate orange as well was very popular. Caramilk, however, was not, so I will not be selling that again. That took so long to sell. They did sell in the end. I think we had 3 caramilk brownies left, but I think it was just a flavour where people were like, I don't know what that is. And it is like I'd say it's a mix between caramel and white chocolate, but people just wanted caramel instead. So make sure that you're aware of your most popular products, things that you sell most. So just like go through your Etsy or however you take orders and like log it down. Time scale, so you need to plan your baking. I am always way too busy and I always have 1,000 things on at the same time as when I'm doing a market, but definitely in future I will be not planning anything else. I took on some cakes for this market, like for the same time, and I regretted it 100%. I had 2 cakes that went out on the same days and it was a massive stress because obviously I knew that I had to get those done, whereas the market stuff I could just bake less. So yeah, in the future make sure you got nothing on, don't do a me. And also I did like a time scale. You can never perfectly keep to like a schedule unless you're, I don't know, a superhero, but I definitely can't. I end up going over, but it just gives you a rough schedule of what you're aiming for, what you need to bake on what days, what things you can bake in advance. So like I know that brownies keep, whereas cupcakes and things do not. Cookie pies keep. Stuffed cookies I think don't keep as well as cookie pies, so I always bake those later. So just make sure you're planning your baking, planning your days, give yourself a schedule, know what you need to bake on what day. I set myself a day for decorating and a day for baking, and then I set numbers of how much I wanted to bake, and then I tried to keep to it. Like I said, I didn't make as many cookie pies as I planned. I wanted to make 12, but I only made 8, just because I was working as well. I had a shift on the Wednesday and the show was on the Thursday, so I had to go and work for 6 hours. So that was 6 hours that I obviously lost that was baking time. And also I feel like it's kind of following on from that. Don't put too much pressure on yourself as to how much you bake. I always do this and it is like a rookie error, but I try to just bake as much as possible. You can't do any more than you have time for, so don't beat yourself up about it, because people can always pre-order. If you recommend your website, which is what I did a lot when I ran out of stuff, I said you can order through my website and literally get it in a couple of days. So people just pre-ordered rather than getting it on the day, because like I say, you can only bake so much, especially when you are like me, where it is just me. I can't physically bake more than 400 items. That was in 2 days and it was a lot. I could have again started earlier, but I was away the weekend before at a 4-day festival, so that was not happening. I needed to sleep after I got back from that, and then I started baking and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do as much as possible. So that is on the baking side. So in terms of what you need, like I say, I have done a video on this, so go and check that out because that gives you like a full tick list. You can literally write down everything I say. It's a lot simpler than what I'm about to go through. So number 1, write a list. Same as you do for when you go on holiday and you pack. You write a long list of things that you need. You can ask other people if they can add anything to it. That's what I usually do. I literally went round and said to my mum, like, give me some ideas of other stuff I need. So then you can just tick it off as you pack it. Pack it into categories. So I have boxes for my bakes, boxes for packaging, boxes for stationery, card machines, cash, that kind of thing. So just kind of label it all, because then on the day, if you are in a rush, which I always am, I'm in a rush wherever I go, but it just means that you can literally get everything out your cart and go, right, get the bakes out, get the card machine out, and you just know where everything is. It makes it so much easier. I used to just shove it in a box and take it, but then there's certain things like bags which you don't necessarily need to get out. You can leave them under the table all neatly packed, so then you can just have things organised a bit better. Number 1 thing that you need, and I will never get over how every single market I managed to not prepare this, but you need cash. You need it. It's the number 1 thing you need at a market, because there are people that pay by card, but if your card machine dies, like mine did at the Bucks County show, it died at about 3 PM, and luckily everyone after that was paying with cash. But you need to make sure that things are charged, and also bring a power bank, because that is one thing I brought but I forgot to charge it, so I couldn't actually charge the card machine. But make sure you have cash. Make sure that you get it days in advance. I always planned to get it the day before, so I get notes out and I had them all ready, and then I go to the bank and change them. However, every single market that I've done, I've either had a shift the day before, which meant that I needed to go there earlier and the bank was shut, or the most recent one, I went to go there the day before and they were closed for some kind of bank holiday, because I think it's like the 30th of August or something is a bank holiday. So when I went to go get cash, it was a bank holiday and the bank was shut. So make sure that you don't do a me and you get stuff way in advance, because that is the one thing that always stresses me out. And then I end up having to go to Tesco's and pay on the little self-service and try and get some cash back. So I buy like a packet of chocolate chips and then I'll pay with like a £10 note, and then you get loads of change. But it's stressful, so don't do that. I think I may have learnt from it after this most recent one, because the amount of cash that I needed for such a big show was a lot, so I needed to just go into Lloyd's and change it up. It would have been so much easier. There was one bank open and it was Metro. I went in there and they said that I had to have an account with them to get change, even though I already had the cash like in my hand. I thought it was if you were taking cash out of your account, but yeah. So don't go to Metro, make sure you go to your bank and make sure you do it in advance, because cash is so important. Also, in regards to the card machine, I actually have the box here, but I have a sum up one. So it's just one of those little card machines. You can, I think it's Sum Up and another one. There's another brand, but I can't remember what it is. But you basically just get them online. I got mine on Amazon and I think it was £18 or something like that. Really, really cheap, and the fees aren't like crazy amounts. I think it's like 1% or something. It's really low. So on like £500 it was something like a couple of quid, I think. So it might not even be 1%, but it wasn't very much at all. So the card machine is definitely a huge help. So you need all your setup stuff, so that's like tables, chairs. One thing I would recommend, which I got for this time, which made the place look so much cleaner, is, I'll try and insert a photo because I actually got a photo of the table, I think. Yeah, I did. Is this black table cover. So it's one of the ones where you loop it around the legs and it's all tight, and it just covers the underneath of your table, so you can hide all your rubbish under the table and no one will see it. It was £13 for a 6-foot one off of Amazon. I friggin' love Amazon. I buy everything on there. You can get a 2-pack for I think £20, but I didn't have 2 tables, so I didn't need it. But it is so, so good. It made the table look so much more professional. And the other thing that I did, which was different, is rather than having an overfilled table, I had little, I used cake boards, because the slate trays that I bought, which I will be using next time, they were too heavy for my mum to carry, so I didn't actually use them. But they're these like slate chopping boards, but instead I used I actually have some. I used these cake cards. So they're just like silver cake cards, and I just stacked the cookies and stuff on there. And again, I just didn't overfill. I had a couple of each flavour, and it just looked so much more organised. So I'll put a little photo of the setup so you would have seen. But yeah, make sure you don't overfill your table, because that's something that I used to do. I used to just have the boxes of treats on the table, but then there's just a lot out and the air's getting to it and all of that. Whereas I just replaced things, so as they were bought, the table was always full, but I just got them out the box and replaced it, so then they're kept airtight, not getting dry, all of that. Make sure you obviously have your products with you. Like I mentioned, make sure you have tech, so some kind of card machine. You also need your phone for the card machine, or an iPad. So I had my iPad and my phone, and then you just Bluetooth and use the Sum Up app, and then you connect your phone and you just like type in the totals on your phone and then press charge, and then it connects to the little card reader. And also make sure you've got plenty of packaging. So one thing I forgot on my first one, which I made sure I had plenty of for this one, is bags and boxes. I had little paper bags, I had big boxes for if someone ordered more than like 3 items, and then I also had bags, like paper bags with handles, so you could shove it all in there if they ordered a lot, because there were a couple of people where they ordered like 10+ items. for like big teams of people or like big families. So packaging, you want to make sure that you've got the right stuff, because again, it's something that you can't get last minute, and if you do get last minute, you're buying it from supermarkets where it's extortionate. Whereas I get all my stuff from either eBay or Cake Decorating Co. for like boxes and things, and then they're super cheap. So that's pretty much every extra from that video, but like I say, that video has all the main things that you need. That was just a few extra things that I found from this time. So marketing is the main thing that I changed, so setup partly, but also marketing. So this time what I did is we constantly had samples. So I had some plain brownies that I made, and I had samples throughout the whole day, and I would not recommend this enough. Oh my god. So basically the way that we did it is we had the table set up, and then I was usually holding the samples, because it meant that people had to come to the table. Because the problem is, if you walk around with samples, people don't know where you are, they can eat something for free and then walk off. So, and people love a free thing, especially in England. So you have to make sure that you're getting them to come to the table. So the way I did it is I was holding it, and then I would, as people walk past, I would be like, hi, do you want to try some brownies? And then they would come over, they would try the brownies, and they're stood right in front of all the treats. So then once they're trying it, they end up looking down and they ask how much it is and blah blah blah. So then people ended up buying. Whereas there was a time when my sister was like, oh, shall I go out? And she did it literally for about 5 minutes, and I was like, nope, come back in, because people just took the samples and didn't buy anything. So you have to make sure that you're drawing people in, and also that they know where it's coming from and all of that. And also, as soon as people come to the table, they then start asking me questions, because they know that I'm the owner, and then it starts a conversation and you can kind of reel people in that way. So that was the #1 thing that I would recommend. Make sure you have plenty of like plain or like simple flavors, because again, people might not like certain flavors. So like, we didn't do chocolate orange for samples, because if people didn't like chocolate orange, then they're not going to want to try it. So I used like the triple chocolate ones for the samples, because then it's something that most people like. In terms of marketing, plan your pricing based on the event. So I change my pricing for different markets based on where it is, the status of the market, the amount of people that normally go. If it's like a town market, you can't expect people to be paying £4 for a brownie, because they won't, or they'll moan about it at least. Whereas for the county show, because everything is more pricey, because it is such a high status show, I charge £4 for brownies and stuffed cookies, and £5 each for the cookie slices, the 9-inch ones, so they are quite big. But I charge more than I would normally, because I know that people will pay it. Like, I paid something like £5 for some cheese. Like, you're gonna pay more than you would in Tesco's. You don't expect to get it that cheap because of the type of show that it is. And because you get so many people, again, it's a popular show, so people know that there's going to be things that are slightly more expensive, so you can get away with charging more. But like I say, if it's a town market or something small, or a charity event, stuff like that, then don't charge as much. So you need to look at the event, look at how many people go, and plan it based on that. Promotion, I waited until the week before. I did mention that I was going to be there quite early, like a month ago, like previously. But I would say, in terms of promoting the fact that you're there, I would leave it until the week before to properly do it, because otherwise people forget. So I did a lot of posts the week leading up, like stories, and then on the day I posted that I was there so that people knew, and like tagged the location and all of that, so that if anyone was in Aylesbury and they might be popping down, they know. So yeah, I would say make sure that you're promoting it on your stories, on your page, so that people know. I did it on my Facebook as well, so that people knew. So another thing that I did differently for this one, I had a banner. I've never had a banner before. It actually wasn't as expensive as I thought as well, because I did initially look on Vistaprint and it was like £50. And then I managed to get one on a site called Banner Buzz, which is, I think it was like £23, and it was a 6-foot banner, and I'm absolutely in love with it. It's so pretty. I just love it so much. I'll put a photo of it, but I customized it myself, created the design and everything, put all my information on there and put some photos of my cakes, and it's just something that reels people in. So I had it behind me because we had like separators in between each of the sides of the stall, so we were all lined up like this, and then behind us we had this kind of like curtain, and then on the other side was the other stalls. So we tied it to that, and everyone else had them, so it made me feel a bit more professional, because I did feel very small compared to everyone else. Everyone else's table setups were really like extravagant, and then I was just there with my one table and my cakes out, so I did feel a little bit smaller compared to everyone else. But I actually was one of the most successful people there. That's what other stall holders told me, so that made me feel a bit better. But yeah, the banner was a huge thing. Like the amount of people that pointed it out, they were looking at the cakes, and they were looking at the brownies and cookies, sorry, and then they would point out the cakes behind me and be like, wait, you do occasion cakes too? And I said like I wasn't allowed to sell big cakes at the event, but I do them. And a lot of people were based in Aylesbury, so they took my details, took my cards. I had 250 business cards and I gave them all out. And it wasn't that I was necessarily just giving them out willy-nilly. I gave some to people that bought large amounts of stuff and just said like, if you want any postals, but most of them were for people that were asking about cakes and asking about like custom orders. So that was another success. But I would definitely recommend a banner. You either put it on the table or you put it behind you, but it just makes you stand out and look a bit more professional. Had my logo on it, my website, my YouTube, and then like I say, photos of my cakes. And yeah, it just looked a lot better than previous markets where I was just like a table and I could have just been anyone. So that made a huge difference. And kind of following on from that, the whole looking official. Just try and make your setup as like clean as possible and kind of like modern, a bit more simplistic, I would say. There were some people that had like crazy setups where they had a lot of stuff, but I wasn't really a fan of that look. I thought it looked a bit over the top and like crowded. But all the people that were more like simplistic and like organized, I thought that was better. So yeah, definitely make sure that your setup is good. So just some little things in regards to on the day. I have kind of gone over a couple of these, but just to go over them again. So arrive early, plan your morning, make sure that you've got a whole schedule, make sure that you're organised as possible, because it is very, very stressful. Every single time I do a market, I don't sleep the night before, and if I do, it's not for very long. This time I actually did an all-nighter because I was working for those 6 hours. I had to finish everything, and I finished at about 3 AM, and I was meant to get up at 6 because I needed to get there for 7. And I just thought, what's the point? Like, I was so stressed that I was like, if I go to sleep now, I might not wake up. And they told us that if you got there after 8, you weren't allowed in. Like, you weren't allowed to set up. So, yeah, I obviously didn't want to oversleep. So I just did an all-nighter. And my dad actually came out in the morning at like 6 and he was like, oh, have you just got up? And I was like, no, I haven't gone to bed. So I had about 10 coffees that day because I was trying to stay awake. But yeah, make sure that you plan everything, just because the more organised you are, the more at ease you're going to feel. But yeah, I just know that I'm a very anxious person, so I was never going to sleep anyway, especially not with a show that big. Another thing for on the day is talk to other stalls. This is so important. I've never done this. I never really chat to other stall holders. Like, obviously if they come over and they're chatty, then I will. But I spoke mainly to the people around me, but it just meant that, one, it made me feel at ease. They gave me some tips because they knew that it was my first big show, so they were giving me lots of tips. They were like, oh, try this, try this. Some of them were saying that they knew other farmers markets because they do them all the time, so they gave me some recommendations of sites to look on to actually book onto other like events, so that was helpful. And then also one of them helped me put up my banner because I couldn't do it. There was the cheese person next to me. I actually bought some cheese from him. I got chili cheese and it was amazing. But he was recommending me to people, so he would say, oh, try this cheese, blah blah blah, and then it'd be like, oh, make sure you go and try her brownies or her cookies, and then you get recommendations from the other stall holders, because if you seem nice and friendly, then they don't mind helping you out. So everyone was actually very helpful. There were a couple of people who were a bit aggy on the day, so I just stayed away from them. A couple of stall holders where they've been moved around or they arrived late and they've had some issues, and I just didn't really associate with them. Just don't get involved in the drama, basically. I was just super nice to everyone and tried to get some tips and learn from these people, because so many of them do this like every weekend. Some of them were at the Wadston Chili Fest, so that was actually the day after Bucks County show, and they were giving me tips for that. That's like £1,000 a day. It's so expensive, so you actually have to make sure that you sell a lot at that event. But they were really friendly, so I learned a lot from other stall holders as well as just my own experience. One thing I would recommend is plan your day in terms of your pricing. So they did it, like other stall holders did it, and that's kind of where I got the idea from. I got this on the day and then I kind of implemented it. But they plan their day so that when it got to a certain time, they might start doing offers, they might start doing different samples of products that aren't doing as well. So you might, if the cookies aren't doing as well, then do some samples of those, and then when people try them, they'll be like, oh, I need to buy that. So they did that with, like, the guy next to me did it with his cheeses. There was one that wasn't selling as well, and he was like, right, I'm going to do some samples of this one because I want this to sell. And then also do offers. So it got to about, I again didn't really need to do this, but because my card machine was breaking and I obviously didn't want to get left with loads of stuff, that's also why I left early. So I think I would have sold those last 10 items if I'd stayed for the last like hour and a half. But I did an offer of 4 for, what was it, 3 for 10? Yeah, so they were £4 each and I did 3 for 10. So I did that for the last hour that I stayed. Because my card machine died, I was thinking I don't have the change, so, and also like people couldn't pay by card, so that way people are likely to have a £10 note or a £5 note opposed to £12 where I have to give them change, or they might want to pay by card. So yeah, I did it that way. So I was like, right, there's an offer on. I told people as they walked past, I had a little sign on my table, like a little plastic sign, and then people could see it as they came up. But I felt that that was a good way to get rid of the last of the stock, and also, like I say, because my card machine was dead and my phone was dead as well, I didn't want to risk taking all this stuff home. So I was like, right, I'll do an offer to try and get rid of stuff before I can't actually take any payment anymore. So that was another thing. Also judge your customers. So as people are coming past, like this is based on different events, but I judged the type of people that would be there, but also on the day I judged who my clientele were and who to spend the time on. There were some people where they'd try a sample, they would seem interested, so then I'd start talking about my cakes, and then they ended up taking a card. I've had a couple which have actually contacted me saying that they found me from the Bucks County show. So it just means that you aren't wasting your time on people that are just wanting samples, or aren't actually wanting the cake side of the business. They just want to buy some brownies and that's it. So you have to kind of judge who to spend your time on, because seeing people in person is completely different. So when I talk to people in person, they always say like, oh, you're so passionate about your business and all this, and that is such a good way to reel people in, because they see how interested you are in your cakes and selling them, that it makes you like the perfect salesperson for your products. So I always find that I find it really easy to sell my bakes at a show, because even if someone's just like, no, I'm not interested, I talk them to death, and then they end up being like, oh my god, this was amazing, I'm so happy that I bought some. So yeah, you just gotta judge your customers and also be confident in your ability, because like I say, I've seen plenty of markets where people have just sold me stuff. They haven't given me any, they haven't shown me any interest that they have in the business. So I feel like that's something that I definitely do, and I think it's very easy to do. You just need to actually care about your business and know enough about it to talk to people and share your experience and all of that. So leading on from that is reeling people in. That kind of goes with the whole talking about your business, but you just need to reel people in, because a lot of the time people don't plan to buy something. People are stingy, and if you can reel them in, like with samples, like with showing them different things, like the banner, for example, people would walk up and say, what's that up there? And they can't see it from further away, and then as soon as they get close, they're like, oh wow. And then I start talking to them about the cakes, and they end up having a conversation, and then they end up buying something. So you just have to try and engage with people, and also be super friendly. Like, naturally, I'm a people person. I love chatting. I mean, we've been talking for like 30 minutes about this market, so you know me. But I just find it so easy to talk to people, so it makes it a lot easier to sell people stuff and reel them in and all of that. But just be confident, friendly, and just talk about your business, and you should do pretty well at a market. So that is pretty much everything, I think. I haven't got anything else on here apart from like knowing your statistics. So like, this event was 25,000 people approximately. It was in Buckinghamshire, and I sold things. I sold the brownies, cookies for £4 and the cookie pies for £5. I have seen some events, like, obviously, again, when I say judging events, it also depends how much you're paying for your pitch. So this one was £200 for the pitch, and I made £1,100, which I've never made that much at a market. I've probably made max £450. That was mainly due to the amount that I baked, and also my pricing was extremely low. I've had multiple people tell me at markets, like customers, say that I'm cheap. So I upped the prices, and out of the hundreds of people that came to the stall, I had one older woman, and there's nothing against her. I could probably imagine my nan saying the same thing, but she asked me how much the stuff was, and there was a sign, but she maybe didn't read it. And I told her how much they were, and she went, oh, that's too dear for me, and then just walked off. And I just laughed. I found it so funny. But then she did go up to the stall next to me and also say that they were expensive, and they weren't. They were selling samosas for, I think it was £2.50 each, or 3 for £5, which is very, very cheap. Like, that's cheaper than you'd get them in like M&S. So she also said that they were dear. So I didn't take it to heart. I just thought, that's one person, the hundreds of people that have bought from me, that kind of shows me that my pricing was right. But like I say, I've been to cake shows, like the cake and bake show, stuff like that, where they're selling cookies for £5, like small cookies, and things like cookie pies and stuff like that, they sell them for like £6.50, because their plot for that market must be like £1,000. So they need to make their money back in order to actually fund the day and fund their employees and all of that. Whereas lucky for me, I employ my sister and my mum for free, so they just are super, super helpful. But yeah, so you need to also be aware of how much you're spending on the event. That's another thing to add, because like I say, you don't want to be out of pocket. So yeah, but I think that's pretty much it. So hopefully that was helpful in some way, and you enjoyed listening to me ramble like crazy as usual. But yeah, so insanely successful. Never had something that successful. And I will be looking up the other markets that some of the stall holders recommended me to. They said that there was a lot of Christmas ones. The Bucks County show actually invited me to the Christmas one. They went round and kind of picked different people, but they said that they didn't have a cake baker, so they said that I could come to that event and they will send me all the details. So I signed up for that, and hopefully I'll be able to do that. I think that's in December. I'm assuming it's probably quite close to Christmas, but usually they are maybe like mid-December, because they don't want it too close to Christmas but also not too early. And I'm hoping that I might get some winter markets maybe in November, because they're not necessarily Christmas based, but they're more like Halloweeny autumn markets, so they have various different things. But yeah, so we will see. I'll keep you updated on any other markets that I do, but this one was just so busy that I couldn't do a vlog for it, because I was just, like I say, I was up till 6 AM baking, so I couldn't do a vlog for it, but it was very, very successful, so I am super, super happy with it. But yeah, I hope that you found that helpful, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!